This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
You're not using ChatGPT correctly. I don't even know how you use it, but I'm just going to go ahead and make that claim. And hardly no one out there teaching or sharing about ChatGPT is using it correctly either. So luckily, you tuned in today because I'm going to show you why and how you need to give ChatGPT access to the internet. All right. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. My name's Jordan Wilson. I'm the host of Everyday AI. Whether it's your first time or your 101st time joining us, thank you. Here's what Everyday AI is. We do this every single morning. We go live on LinkedIn and other social media at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time to bring people together. I think we have the largest group of AI enthusiasts learning together every single weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we're going to learn about AI and how we can actually leverage it. All right, so get your questions in now. If you are joining us live, it's just me and you today. Most days we bring on expert guests and everyday people who are using AI in fantastic ways. But today, it's just you and me. So let's have a conversation. If you are joining us on the podcast, make sure to check in your show notes. And we have them on LinkedIn. If you're here on LinkedIn, look in those notes right now. Because I think you should also go check out that 100th episode that we have. It was amazing. We highlighted some of the best shows that we've had over the course of 100 episodes of Everyday AI. But enough about that. Let's first get into the AI news. This is something we do every day as well. All right, so big topics in AI news. So OpenAI has moved to Europe. Well, not actually. They've just opened another office there, but they did officially open up that Europe office in Dublin with 9 job openings. But it's growing by the hour. It was, I think, 5 when I first checked. It's up to 9. But it should be interesting. So, the ChatGPT parent company has operated in the US for the most part, but they just opened and moved into their Europe office, according to reports. It should be interesting, though, because the European Union's AI Act could potentially impose violations for much of the work that they're even doing there. So it's going to be extremely interesting to keep an eye on that. And that's even why I bring it up, just because the EU does have the AI Act. And there's a lot of gray areas with large language models and ChatGPT in particular. All right, next big piece of news. Tech's biggest names met with the U.S. Senate yesterday to work on AI regulations. So the big names and who's of essentially the richest men in the world, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, others met in a closed-door session with U.S. senators. Reportedly, more than 60 U.S. senators showed up out of 100. So what's up, other 40? Why did you not show up? That's what I want to know. But both U.S. senators and big tech reps called for a federal, just more federal involvement. So even specifically, Elon Musk called for a federal department of AI, and according to reports, called AI development as potentially harmful to humans everywhere, in quotes, right? No big deal. Also, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer reported that all attendees, so U.S. senators and tech dignitaries, they all raised their hands when asked if government needs to play a role in regulating AI. So nothing really happened. I'll just say it like it is. And, it's my hot take on the show. If you've joined me before, I don't think any meaningful regulation is going to come from the U.S. when it comes to generative AI, just mainly because it is in large parts powering the U.S. economy. Speaking of the U.S. economy, last but not least, consulting firms are going all in on AI. So EY just announced, and they're one of the largest consulting firms in the world, they just announced a $1.4 billion investment into AI. And they're also creating their own platform and large language model, EY.AI EYQ. That is a mouthful and a half. But EY is not the first, nor will they be the last large consulting company going all in on AI. Other big names in the space have already made their splash and will probably continue to do so. So as an example, KPMG had a $2 billion investment, PricewaterhouseCoopers, $1 billion investment, Deloitte, 1.4, Accenture, $3 billion. So a lot going on in that world. But what's going on right now is you all are joining me live. And y'all, did anyone in the room tune in yesterday for our 100th show? I'm just curious because I had a slight miracle happen in our 100th show that I'd like to talk about. So thanks everyone for joining us. Michael Forgy just joined us on the show, actually as a guest. He said, as stated in my episode with Jordan, I am not a plugins master. He wants to learn from the best. So thanks for joining us, Michael. And all right, who else do we got here joining us live? So Brian saying good morning. Two Brian's saying good morning. Look at this. Harold, good morning. Rodrigue, good morning. Peter, thank you for joining us. Jackie said yes to the 100th episode. Thanks, Jackie. All right, here's my miracle, y'all. Just a real quick story, but don't worry, it's kind of ChatGPT related. So after 100 episodes, my wife finally said, I think I'm going to take the PPP course. You know, we had a couple of people shout it out, our free Prime prompt polish. And finally, it was a miracle. She's going to take the course, right? Yay. So, hey, if you've also listened to 100 episodes and you're finally like, man, I should probably take that free Prime prompt polish course where we teach people our method of using large language models, specifically ChatGPT, just type in PPP in the comments. We actually have one course today and tomorrow. It's all free, no upsells. But that isn't what you came here. You didn't come here for my random stories, I don't think. You probably came to learn a little bit about ChatGPT and internet access, right? Harvey said, great 100th episode. Thank you, Harvey. Mike, thank you for joining the show. Mike saying, hanging with smart people makes you smarter. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's talk a little bit about how you give ChatGPT internet access and even why. All right. And as a reminder, before we dive in, this isn't just a live stream. This isn't just a podcast. We also have our free daily newsletter and our course. So make sure you go to youreverydayai.com. That's youreverydayai.com. It's in the show notes. And sign up for that daily newsletter. We spend a ton of time on it. I think it's tremendous value. And if I'm being honest, yeah, there's dozens of other AI newsletters out there, but most of them are geared toward highly technical people. Everyday AI and our newsletter is geared toward everyday professionals. All right. So let me start with this. Almost everyone is using ChatGPT incorrectly. All right. I'd hate to break it to you. So, that person you follow on Twitter, that other podcast you listen to, they're almost all using ChatGPT incorrectly. All right. And first, very brief background. I never claimed to be an AI expert, a ChatGPT expert, large language model. I'm not, but I have been using the GPT technology since I think the week it came out commercially, right? Which was late 2020. So the GPT, I think it was GPT-3 at the time, was available in a lot of different commercially available tools to the public. So myself and my team, we've been using the GPT tech essentially since it came out, almost 3 years now. And I'll tell you this, and you guys might be shocked to hear this, how much I talk about ChatGPT now. And I don't think I've ever told anyone this. Maybe I have. But when ChatGPT first came out in November 2022, I used it right away. I signed up, obviously. I was not impressed. I'll say it. I used it, tried to find utility for it, really put it through its paces. And I'd hate to say this out loud, but it just wasn't that great. Sorry, not sorry. Mainly because there was other tools using their technology that had been trained on, millions of user inquiries or millions of users of queries before that point. And their models were better and they were more flexible, right? So it really wasn't until that ChatGPT unveiled web browsing access that I said, yep, I'm going to go back and dive into ChatGPT. And probably since that point, and especially since plugins, I use ChatGPT usually the first thing in the morning before I even get my cup of coffee that you sometimes see or hear me sipping. Apologies if you hear weird sipping sounds in the mic. It helps me talk better, y'all. The first thing I do is use ChatGPT in the morning. All right. And I use it throughout the day. Some days I'm using it 6 to 10 hours. All right. If that tells you anything. So how did I go from being very not impressed with ChatGPT to using it almost exclusively? I don't Google as much. I don't do traditional search as much. I don't use Word docs as much. I've used at least 70 to 80 different GPT or AI writing tools. Why do I spend so much time in ChatGPT then? And why is everyone else using ChatGPT incorrectly? Mainly it's because of plugins. Okay, so we talked about web browsing, and that was a mode that was available in ChatGPT before, and it went away. Did any of you all joining live use the web browsing mode from ChatGPT? I'm curious how many people use what mode, but if you're brand new to ChatGPT, let me explain it. There's a free version and a paid version, right? So I think I have a little slide here. Maybe I don't. But there's a free version and a paid version. So GPT 3.5, and the paid version is GPT 4. Okay. And then even within GPT 4, which is just a much more powerful version trained on 1.8 trillion parameters. So 1.8 trillion connections in its big neural network brain. So even within GPT 4, there's different modes. There's the default mode. There is the what used to be called code interpreter, which is now, I believe, called advanced data analysis. Not a great name. ADA, I think, is what people call it now. And then there's plugins. But there used to be web browsing, right? But they took it away. You know, Douglas, thanks for joining us. He said, I use web browsing and then flipped to the Web Pilot plugin. Yeah. They took it away. And here's why I know that almost everyone out there who's trying to teach ChatGPT and they're saying, buy my course, use my prompts, they're just trying to get you on an email list to sell you something. Look at their screenshots. I did this the other day. I was curious. You know, it's funny when people literally refer to themselves as ChatGPT experts or specifically ChatGPT experts. So I looked at some people in my LinkedIn community who call themselves ChatGPT experts, and there was dozens. And I looked at what they're sharing, all their little prompts and screenshots, and none of them are using ChatGPT correctly, because you shouldn't just copy and paste prompts. Number one. Number two, you should always be ready. Here's the nugget. Write this down. If anyone still uses pencils or pens, I'm going to see what I got here. All right. I got a pencil. You should always be using an internet connected plugin in your chat. Don't use the default mode. There's no reason. For me, I don't use advanced data analysis. I really don't, because there's plenty of plugins that can do the basics of data analysis. When you start a new chat, anytime you're using ChatGPT, whether you're a novice user or a pro user, okay, you should be using GPT-4 with plugins and having an internet connected plugin always. And I'm going to show you here live why, okay? But always. And everyone teaching ChatGPT, go look at their prompts. People share screenshots. They're not using it. People are using the default mode. It's a rookie mistake. That's the way that you can immediately tell if someone knows what they're talking about or not, by seeing what plugins they're using in their chats. Look at their screenshots. I've watched people's YouTube videos. It's hilarious. And again, Let me go back to when I first started to use ChatGPT, why I wasn't impressed. It's for the same reason that people trying to teach ChatGPT that don't have internet access enabled are failing us. September 2021. That is the cutoff date for GPT-4 and GPT-3.5. So essentially, GPT-4 is a large language model. All right. And that's why ChatGPT needs internet access, because it has no clue what's been going on in the world. It has no clue. It's 2 years, right? Imagine relying on ChatGPT for anything, because all industries change. Even US history changes, right? You have to give ChatGPT access to the internet, or you're going to run into hallucinations and just a bunch of hot garbage output. In consumers, we are getting so numb to this bad output, right? So right there, I just said recent memory cuts. You have to connect to the internet. All right. So let me go over, and I'm a dork. Like, I think 3 weeks ago, I tested. At the time, there was, I think, 19 or 20 different internet-connected or internet-enabled ChatGPT plugins. I need to update my list because I know that there's a lot more than that by now. And you're going to see, I'm going to show y'all at the end. I hear from you guys. I always get feedback, and people say, hey, Jordan, we like when you show us something live. So I'm going to get to that. Don't worry. But first, I need to go on my mini rants. Y'all know I do this. Okay, so the main functions, again, get your pens and pencils out. These are the main functions or different functions of an internet-connected ChatGPT plugin. Again, there is no internet browsing mode anymore. And there's plugins, but they're all created differently, and they all have different functions and features. And a lot of times, not even the plugin maker tells you, right? They just say, hey, you can access the web with this, okay? So here's the 4 different categories. Write this down. Reading links or accessing links, querying the web, reading PDFs, and YouTube summaries. All right, if you're listening to me in the car, which shout out to y'all, by the way. I got so many messages yesterday after the 100th episode. Everyone's saying, oh, I listen to you in the car. Don't worry. Don't crash. Don't text those to yourself. We'll put them in the show notes. We'll put them in the newsletter. Okay. So number 1, read links. Number 2, query the web. Number 3, read PDFs. Number 4, YouTube summaries. Here's the downside. There is no one plugin that does all 4, but there's many different internet connected plugins that do 3 of 4. All right. This is why, y'all, if anyone ever tells you, oh yeah, I'll teach you ChatGPT, or hey, buy my course, buy my prompts, whatever. Ask them that question. Say, what do you think are the things that an internet-connected ChatGPT plugin needs? If they can't list at least 3 of those 4, that person has no clue what they're talking about. Because this is the most powerful part of ChatGPT, and I can't stress this enough, is using internet-connected plugins. Period. And this is why ChatGPT is in a whole nother league versus Claude from Anthropic, versus Google Bard, versus Microsoft Bing Chat. Guess what? They say Bard and Bing Chat are connected to the internet, but they're not. They're not. They query the internet. And they don't tell you that. Don't worry, I'm going to share. All right.
Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on Gen AI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use Gen AI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too. just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on Gen AI.
Peter says this. Peter says, I will make that one plugin that fits all four for you. Thank you, Peter. Hey, if you can do that, we will send it out to our thousands of listeners. So yeah, let's do that together. Should we get our first everyday AI based plugin? That would be awesome. Ben asking, any reason why one plugin can't do all of those things? Ben, I'm sure that there's a technical reason behind it that is above my knowledge base. Again, I'm not an expert. You know, I can do a little coding. I can do web design and development. I can make a Chrome extension. I haven't made a plugin yet. I could figure it out, but Ben, I don't know. I'm sure someone in the comments that's smarter than me can tell us that. But so let's go ahead and look live. All right. I made y'all wait long enough. Here we go. All right. So if you are listening on the podcast, I'm going to do my best to explain this to you. So right now, I am in ChatGPT 3.5. Okay. So I'm going to explain this to you. And here's the thing. This is how most people use ChatGPT, which is terrible. Okay. So I'm saying, please write an outline and an overview on why the US government may need to regulate artificial intelligence, right? So I talked about this on the top of the show a little bit, right? So here, especially students, again, students, I'm not encouraging you to use ChatGPT to write your papers, but every single student is using ChatGPT to write their papers. And almost all of them are using GPT-3. So I know we probably have a couple teachers in the house. So you're probably used to seeing a bunch of just dull content like this. So yes, ChatGPT gave me an outline and an overview, but it's bland, right? It says definition of artificial intelligence. B, importance of AI in contemporary society. C, need for government regulation, right? So it's a lot of just general kind of just garbage. Not that great, right? So here's an introduction paragraph, ethical concerns, economic considerations. This is what the overwhelming majority of people will just use this, or they'll run that exact same query in GPT-4, which is just going to give you slightly better hot garbage results. It's going to give you medium garbage results. Okay? And why? Well, believe it or not, there's been a lot that's been going on in the AI and governance world since September 2021. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? That's why you get a lot of times just a lot of words saying nothing, like what you see on the screen here, or sometimes hallucinations. It's because you're not connecting ChatGPT to the internet. Y'all are doing it wrong, right? All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to run a couple tests here. All right, so we're going to go now. I have another window open. We're going to run the same thing with plugins enabled. Don't worry, this is a two-part because I want to show you the difference. I want you guys to learn. All right, that's what we're here for. All right, so I did the exact same prompt with internet-enabled plugins. So some of my favorites, I know you guys want to know, Browser Op, VoxScript, and YouTube Summaries. All right. The two internet-based ones, Browser Op and VoxScript, they can get 3 of 4 each, but between the two of them, they cover all 4. So you'll see here, even with plugins, it's not great. It's just a slightly better version of the GPT-3. And you're probably saying, oh, see, Jordan, ChatGPT is not that good. Well, again, you have to not only enable plugins, but a lot of times in your prompt or in your back and forth conversation, because that's what we teach in our PPP course, Prime Prompt Polish, You need to train an expert chat. I'm just showing you guys quick off the cuff, guys. But in a prompt, let's run this again. Okay. So we'll give it some time and then I'll tell you what I'm asking. I'm running the same prompt. And then I said, please. Oh, I didn't get the whole thing. So sorry. Let me redo this and hopefully I didn't time this out. All right. Let's try that one more time. I missed the first line, so we would have not gotten a great response. Okay. So now I'm writing, please write an outline. So the same first half. Please write an outline and an overview of why the US government may need to regulate artificial intelligence. So when I did that the first time, I still got a kind of a garbage answer. But here's what I did differently in the next prompt. Here's what I said. Please query the internet using plugins to search for recent 2023 trends in AI and government regulations, specifically in the US. All right? Specific command. I said, query the internet using plugins. All right? Then I said, after you are done querying, please also visit these links to understand the latest developments. And then I gave it just 2 different links because I wanted it to go fast. The great thing about browser op is you can usually throw in 10, 12 links and it'll take its time and go through all these. Now you'll see I get a much better result. And here's why. On my screen now, you can see in your response with ChatGPT when it's using a plugin. And I can click here and it says used browser op. So it used the browser op plugin. And I can see here exactly what it did, right? And now when I run that query, I'm actually getting a great overview, right? Now, this overview that's on my screen is up to date. It is very unlikely to have hallucinations. It is actually something I can use, right? And again, I would go back and forth with this. This is just to show you live. All right, so do y'all understand now why you need the internet with ChatGPT? Even if you're using GPT-4 and even if you have plugins enabled, you need to make sure that you are being overly communicative. That's a hard one to get out with ChatGPT and telling it exactly what to do and what you need. Okay. And you need to make sure not just that ChatGPT has access to the internet, but it's actually using it and it's actually retaining that information. Right? Yeah, Peter, like what Peter said, very unlikely. Yes, great call out here, Douglas joining us on LinkedIn. Thanks, Douglas. He said the easiest thing to do is ask ChatGPT what the plugin can do. It's fantastic. Here's the thing, Douglas, I'm a dork. I did this with all different 19 internet connected plugins. And sometimes even the plugin developer hasn't tested all these functions. I found that out. So, but yes, in 90% of the cases, even whenever I use a new plugin, and even if I have a pretty good idea of what it can do, I always ask, so enable the plugin and it also enable an internet connected plugin as well and say, what does this plugin do? Yes. Like what Ahmed said, great hint. Ahmed, thank you for joining us. I think you said you've watched or listened to all 100 episodes. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you all for your support on that. All right. So let me very quickly, this isn't going to be an hour long like yesterday, right? We're nearing the end, but I'm going to go ahead and share. Because people think, oh, Jordan, Google Bard's connected to the internet. Kind of. Okay. So I ran that exact same prompt with the links and to say query the internet and all of that. I ran it in Bard, Cloud Anthropic, or Cloud 2 from Anthropic, and Bing Chat. Right. I should have also ran this in Perplexity because with Perplexity, I think we would have gotten it mostly right. But anyways, here is the output from Google Bard, sharing it on my screen. But essentially, it's saying, sure, here's an outline and overview of why the US government may need to regulate artificial intelligence in 2023. So you might think right away, oh, okay, Jordan, it did everything you asked it to. But here's the downside. Here's the downside. And it didn't do it sometimes. Sometimes Google will share at the bottom. I've run plenty of tests on reading links in other large language models, right? And I've also done dedicated episodes and dedicated AI in 5 videos on this. So what Google Bard and Microsoft Bing Chat usually do is if you give it a link, sometimes it will actually read that link. But here's actually what it does. It queries the internet. Okay? So it actually comes down to semantics and SEO. So when you share a URL with Google Bard or Microsoft Bing Chat, and you say, hey, read this article or summarize this article, all it's going to do, it's going to look in the keywords of that URL, and it is going to query the internet. Okay? So sometimes it will find and read back that URL. Most of the time, it will not. It will just find a related article. And that's where hallucinations can come into play, because if you're looking for something extremely specific that is in maybe that one article only, as an example, what I did with this when we did, I think, an AI in 5, which we share in the newsletter every day, is I did one of the everyday AI episodes, right? And ChatGPT was the only one that got it right, because for all other ones, it just queried the keywords in the URL, right? So right here, you'll see Bard at least gave me some accurate and up-to-date information, but it didn't pull out the specifics that I gave it in those 2 articles. All right, let's look at Claude. People love Claude. I don't. I barely use it. It's not helpful for me. Yes, Claude 2 has a much larger memory, 100,000 tokens. You can upload files in the data, right in the interface. Doesn't do anything for me. If you're not using a large language model with direct access to the URL that you want it to use, you're not using large language models correctly. I don't care. Us as humans, one of the things that we have to do most often, if you have a desk job, is to read very specific things on the internet, right? So why is no one using ChatGPT correctly to do that? Because it is the only tool that can consistently do that and also give you the full features and functionalities of a large language model. Period. It is the only one. If you say, hey, here's 10 URLs that I need you to read and summarize, ChatGPT is the only one. That's where you get out the pencils. Are y'all writing this down? I think I still have some hot takes left over from yesterday. I am making all of you right now into the top 1% of people using large language models, probably even higher than that, probably the top 0.5%, just by knowing that and using it correctly. That's why people are like, Jordan doesn't know what he's talking about. He barely uses Claude 2. That's why it's not useful for everyday business applications, period. Oh, Jordan, Bard is great. Yeah, it's great. Not useful for everyday business applications. Jordan, you should talk about Microsoft Bing Chat more. Nope. Not useful for everyday business applications. Not yet. Until these other large language models allow you to specifically visit one URL and accurately do those 4 things that we talked about. Query the web, visit a specific URL, YouTube summaries, PDF on the web summaries, right? Not just uploading them. Until one large language model can do all of those things, I'm not using it. And guess what, y'all? You shouldn't either, because you're wasting your time. Until those other large language models, they've talked about adding different plugins and functionality, and I know they're testing them, but until they release it, y'all are just wasting your time. Maybrit, thanks for joining us. Maybrit says, Bard is hugely frustrating to use. I prefer ChatGPT. Yes, with ChatGPT and plugins, there's not a lot of things you can't do. All right, I did mention Bing, right? So here we go. Here's this exact same query in the example that I told you. Now you can see it, right? So I gave in the links that I gave it a CNBC link and a time.com link. Y'all people, again, I don't just come on the Everyday AI show and just talk. Some episodes I research for 3, 4, 5, 10 hours because there's so much bad information out there. So, guess what? What I told you guys is correct. And literally will have people argue with me and be like, oh, this Jordan guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because Microsoft Bing is definitely connected to the internet. So you should use Bing. Nope. Don't use Bing Chat. Don't get me wrong. Microsoft's awesome. I can't wait for 365 Copilot. Bing is still useful, but not for everyday applications, because look at the bottom. Look, when I gave it specific websites, look what it did. It queried the keywords in the URL. And instead, it didn't go to those websites that I wanted. It went to bookings.edu. It went to whitehouse.gov. Although helpful, and that's smart, Bing Chat, because I did ask for US regulations, so it looked at this new fact sheet. So that's great. But if you want something specific, and then it went to goodwinlaw.com. If you want something specific, if you want control over your input and your output in a large language model, even though that's great from Microsoft Bing, even though Google Bard gave me somewhat accurate and up-to-date information, it didn't do what I wanted. It didn't give me full control over the input and the output. All right? That's it, y'all. Is this helpful? I hope this was helpful. Nadia says hello. Nadia, thank you for joining us. Ben says, looks like you're going to have to build the large language model and the plugin. Yeah, let's get that plugin going. Brian, thank you for joining us. Brian says your results match my experience too in terms of different tools. Yeah. So I hope we cleared some confusion today on why ChatGPT needs internet access and why you should probably stop. I'm sorry. We do this every day. We help people. We're not charging you, right? Individuals out there, we're keeping our PPP course free, our Prime Prompt Polish course, where you learn things like this. Our daily newsletter. If you haven't already, go sign up right now. YourEverydayAI.com. That's YourEverydayAI.com. It's in the show notes here on the live stream. It's in the show notes on the podcast. Go sign up. Y'all, we put in so much work every single day. Our team does, to make sure that people tuning in, to make sure people reading our newsletter aren't getting bad information, because there's already too much bad information out there. All right. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show tomorrow. Some great shows next week. We're going to be dropping those in the newsletter if you want to see what's on deck. And again, go check out that 100th episode. It was so fun, so gratifying. Thank you all for your support, and to allow us to continue to do this and to continue to grow. So if you do know someone, maybe a spouse, partner, friend, colleague, neighbor, your aunt's dog's babysitter's brother, if someone else is trying to learn generative AI that you know, or you think they should, please share this with them. Tag them here in the comments. Text them. Send them our URL. Forward the email newsletter to them. Y'all, I want to keep doing this to you, and I want to keep doing this with you, and to continue to bring you good, up-to-date, reliable information about using generative AI, because we all need it. We all need it. Y'all remember, I just talked about all these consulting firms investing billions of dollars into generative AI, which means all of that is going to trickle down to all of your companies. Guess what? You can outsmart the future, right? Like what it says on our website. You can be prepared by the time in 6 months or 3 years when your company is now enforcing generative AI top to bottom, you'll be ahead. You can be the one leading the pack. But you're going to need to go to youreverydayai.com to do that. You're going to need to join in. You're going to need to tune in to the newsletter, to the podcast, to the live stream. No live screams. I'm not screaming. Sometimes I rant, but I don't scream. Thank you all for joining us, though. And we hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.